this one. How much have you seen, Kelly, of the?
Well, I watched through like almost everything.
Okay.
I couldn't say like I understand everything
Okay.
really well, especially with all those spoilers, so it's kind of complicated. But
Sure.
I don't really care.
Sure, and that's fine. And so I'll explain it a little bit. Basically, all the characters have jobs. All the characters have like sort of skills and identities of some sort that they have, and they've all come to Arkham to live and to work and to everyone has some sort of background as to why they are vaguely interested, not necessarily in the occult, but everyone's had like something in their background that's influenced their life and they've never been able to escape it. So one of the ones that I explain is that when you were when one of the characters was 7 years old, they up until when they were 7, they had a twin sister,
right.
And then when they were 7 years old, their twin sister sort of disappeared. Okay. And the mom and dad sort of, complained, and like, there was a bit of an investigation to try and find out where she had gone or what had happened to her, and she was just never really found.
Gone.
And then when your character is a couple of years older and sort of playing in the basement, yeah, that's fine. When you're a couple years older and you're playing in the basement, you're like sort of like digging in like an unfinished part of the basement, and you find bones, and you find like so she's wearing a dress. It's your sister, and in the dress that she was wearing the day that she vanished. And so you now know, you don't know whether it was your mother or your father or both of them, and you don't want to say anything because you don't want to end up like her. Yeah. And so you didn't sort of report it because you didn't do that sort of thing in like the early 1900s. It was sort of like something happened to her. You feel like maybe your family was involved in some way, but you never mention it, and so it's something that's followed you around for the rest of your life. So it's always sort of tainted your like the way that your life has you grown up basically, and so you've always had this kind of like chip on your shoulder to sort of seek out not necessarily vengeance, but maybe justice for others that might be in a similar situation.
Find out what had happened.
Yeah, whether you feel like you might never find out what actually happened to her, but you sort of might maybe made it your personal mission to not let this kind of thing happen to other people. And if there's some sort of mystery of this sort or some sort of weird thing that happens, you are kind of committed to upholding that. The justice that other people might not otherwise get, okay. More or less. So, and it doesn't have to be that. Like it could be like other stuff. What was the one that we had for your character? I think it was like one of your cases. You got involved with the woman, and she turns out that like she was sort of saying that she had that her husband had been beating her, and so Drew's character is kind of a very traditional detective, and he'd sort of fallen for her in the process of investigating him and finding out what had happened. But then as things progress, he finds out that it's actually her that was like gaslighting him and like fucking with him and messing with his mind and slowly poisoning him or slowly messing with him, and he couldn't do anything about it because of the way that he was like connected to the case, something of that sort. I don't think that was the exact backstory, but the plan. I mean, and so I sort of ask that everyone who's playing will have some sort of a backstory because you're new and because you sort of have this random thing. It's just like sort of like a family secret or a secret that you've had in your past, either when you're a kid or when you're an adult. It doesn't really matter. You could have done something. You could have accidentally gotten mad and smacked someone with a shovel, and you got away with it because it's the 20s, the early 1900s again, and you can get away with that stuff a little bit easier. There's no helicopters or DNA evidence. So that's sort of the first sort of thing. And so if you want to play moving ahead, and we want to make another character for you, you have a little bit more time to sort of figure out what that might look like for you, and whether you want to tell the kid, whether you want to tell your other characters or the other players that or not, it's entirely up to you. So the other thing as well is that this game has a sort of a level of I've worked in this insanity points. So or sanity points. Basically, Call of Cthulhu has these sanity points built into it as well, but I didn't like the way that the system worked. So the way that the game works in this one is you get XP a little bit differently in GURPS than when when you get Dungeons and Dragons, you get like 100 there, and when you get like 2,500, you go up in level.
Yeah.
In GURPS, it's very different. You basically just get character points, and then you use those character points directly to increase your skills. So you can use them more or less any time, but normally after each chapter, you have the option to kind of spend a character point and put them into different skills to bring them up.
Sure.
So that's the way that XP works. But the way that insanity points work in this particular game is that there are basically 10 safe levels and 11 total points of sanity, basically. And everyone starts at 0, right? Everyone starts at 0, and then as you gain sanity points, each level up to 9 give you an 11% better chance of getting more experience points. So if you go to if you get 1 point, you get 11, and it keeps on going to level 9 when you've got, or level 10 when you've got 99. So you start at 1 point. So you go up to 99 at level 10. Then that basically means that whatever XP you get for a chapter or for a mission will roll a 100-sided dice, and then that's the chance that you'll get. That percentage is a chance that you'll get extra experience. So the more insane you get, the faster your character can level up. The faster they get, more they progress. However, if you reach 11 sanity points, your character is lost to you forever. You give your character over to me, and then I get to do with them as I see fit. The way that I've sort of worked it out for this particular game is that as you start playing, everyone will amass insanity points. There's no way around it. Like the universe knows the way that Cthulhu works, the way that Lovecraft and stuff works. There's always, around every corner is the potential of some, you're always on the edge of completely losing your mind.
Sure.
So there's a lot of checks that you'll be doing on a regular basis. You'll see something and everyone will roll, and if you fail, then you'll amass some level of sanity points. At the beginning of each campaign story, you will have the option of being able to check your character into the asylum.
Okay.
When you check them into the asylum, they have a chance of slowly getting better over the weeks that progress. And so the less sanity points they've amassed, like the less insane they are, the easier it is for them to recover. But as they get more and more insane, it's more and more difficult. So even though you get higher levels of XP, if you play them, it's more difficult for them to recover. So that if you've got a character that you really like, they might end up in the asylum for 3 or 4 weeks or 3 or 4 sessions worth of recovery. So the way that this particular game is sort of constructed is to promote characters or players having multiple characters. So you might have, at first everyone's just going to have one. But then as you start playing, as they start becoming more insane and you have to check them in, you still want to play, so you make a new character. And so you might have, at the beginning of every game, everyone will be able to say, okay, I'm going to pull, where's Betsy at? Okay, she's recovered 2 points of sanity. I really need a character that's a researcher, so I'm going to pull her out and play her for a game, and hopefully, or you might have a combat guy that's like, he's at 9, he's recovered a couple, and you're like, okay, we really need a strong fighter. He's really powerful. We need to bring him into the game. But there's always the risk that they might go over and sort of end up at 11 points, and then basically be lost for good. So it's that sort of that balance that that all the players will be making at the beginning of every session. You guys might sort of, before you start playing, say, okay, what are we doing today? What's our mission today? What do we think there's going to be lots of combat? Do they think there's going to be a lot of talking to people? What kind of characters do we need? And then everyone will go around and sort of agree what characters they want to play and what would be best for the group.
Sure.
So that also gives you the option of sort of playing all kinds of characters and playing all sorts of different things, different genders, different like professions, different. Call of Cthulhu always sort of stipulates that everyone has a job. And it gives a list of jobs you can choose from, and each job gives you bonuses to different skills and things like that, which makes, you don't have to use those, but it makes it easier to create new characters. And so, yeah, that's more or less the way that like the game will function in terms of, you know, the sanity or the insanity. Other than that, all the characters are going to be sort of staying in the same building, the same sort of house together, and it is one of the things that we struggled with in the last game is that different people, when they would like join in, you have to go through this rigmarole of like playing like, how do I trust this other player? You know, even though it's a guy, he hadn't played a previous character who died or got lost or whatever, and he needs to make a new guy, but everyone would go through rigmarole of like that regaining of trust. So the way that this game is sort of being constructed is that anyone who comes to live at the house with you is more or less, you sort of see them as like a fellow wayward soul, someone else who is sort of in your same, you all feel an immediate sense of like kinship to anyone who enters the house and becomes a roommate alongside you, just to make it easier, to make sure that the game. So yeah, it's sort of like a rooming house. And I'll explain a little bit more of the story as things as we start actually playing the session tonight. But I just figured I would sort of explain a little bit. And then the last thing is that even though it's the 1920s, I know we sort of spoke a little bit about like how Lovecraftian stuff is like vaguely racist and like there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens in that way. This sort of version is as mutually exclusive as possible, just because it makes it much easier.
What do you mean?
In that there's no racial tension. There's no like women can get the same jobs that men can. There's no like stereotypes that exist in terms of like the progression of society.
Okay.
I've played games that are 100% realistic in that regard, and you know, often there's a couple players that are in the group that are women, and sometimes it can cause difficulties, even with players that are very creative and understand that that's how it was. It's difficult to sort of play that role. You know, I mean, you sort of like, I've had people say like, oh yeah, I can totally play that. I'm looking forward to playing that. Then they start playing it, and they're like, oh, I really can't. Like, it's really difficult to be this. So we sort of leave that stuff at the doors much. There's a little bit of like faith-related stuff that's more traditional, just because I kind of pulled the group and people were like not as, you know, worried about. It's just like the church has a much bigger role in 1920s as it does now, but there's no like expectations that you know is sort of, you know, yeah. I just wanted to sort of mention it because I think it's important to mention in this particular setting that sometimes people, you know, they want to play a really realistic game and then it ends up being weird to some degree. Like one person is, you know, everyone's eccentric and who plays role-playing games more or less. I think that you know, we all want to sort of explore characters outside of ourselves and sort of play in a world that doesn't exist, and sort of, you know, we can act out things that we wouldn't act out otherwise.
Okay.
So
sure.
Yeah. Good stuff. So everyone has Vitaly, do you have your character completed?
Almost done.
Okay. Good stuff.
I have a few questions.
Okay. Ask the question.
So, does like disbelief in all this like mystical stuff count as delusion in this universe?
What do you mean?
I want to have delusion. I don't believe in all this mystical stuff.
You can do that, but you still have to figure out a way as to why you're like all the characters.
Oh, that's really easy. I want to prove that it makes no sense. And it all has like science explanation.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but keep in mind that all the other players that are like all the other characters that are in the house living together, like I don't know.
Like I major in psychology and I want to cure them all.
Okay. So, but are you coming into the house pretending that you believe in everything and you're trying to find a way to slowly like convince them all, or are you coming into the house being like, I know, because you probably wouldn't be invited to live there if you were outwardly saying that you didn't.
Okay. Then I will be hiding this.
Right. So that's fine. And I would say that. So one of the things I wanted to mention, which is an excellent thing, is that world or this universe has tropes that you'll want to, or stereotypes that you'll want to follow. So like fighters, researchers, and doctors are really like, you know, some of the, maybe an investigators. Everyone's called an investigator, but like actually like people who are got good people skills, people who talk well with different people. GURPS is a very social game.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that when you look in your character that you've got reaction modifiers as to bonuses, pros and cons, benefits. So whenever someone meets you, they're rolling 3 dice to see how well they are affected by you, and you can also roll dice to see how well if you're using fast talk, or if you're using a skill to talk to them about something, your skill will also further affect the reaction roll, and that will set whether people give you good or bad information. It's a lot more important in GURPS than it is in other games, because in other games, you know, you're like, oh, like, you know, I can see fire coming out of the mountain. Obviously, that's where the dragon lives. Let's go there. Whereas in this game, there's a lot more. I always say that, like, in every session, there are probably 15 or 20 different plot lines, and based on what your characters do, new plot lines will come up, old plot lines will be forever extinguished, and you won't know what you missed out on. That's all stuff that sort of I keep track of for the most part. A lot of stuff is sort of, I do a lot of stuff on the fly. I don't take a million notes. I've been running games for 20 years, so it's like I'm fairly comfortable with what I'm doing for the most part. Sometimes some sessions are better than others, but for the most part, they're all pretty good.
Right.
But yeah, so in terms of the doctor role or the support role, one of the most important roles is not necessarily medical doctor, but like someone who's a psychiatrist or someone who's a psychologist. When you get back at the end of each session, you'll have the option of the psychologist rolling to see whether or not you could, let's say you've gotten a few insanity points that mission, before they become permanent, you will have an option to try to dispel them, to get rid of them without having to check yourself in. So if there's a psychologist that's on the mission with you, they'll give you a bonus to all those rolls, because they'll help. Like, let's say, for example, you see a scary vampire, right? Sure. And you would roll on your skill to like resist it. Even if you fail, if there's a psychologist in the party and they pass their psychology roll, it's basically the equivalent of them being like, no, don't worry, it wasn't real, it was just, and then you get a +1, and then if you had passed with that +1, then you don't get that insanity point. They've basically like instead of bandaging you physically, they bandaged you mentally. So that's a very important role in this game, and often you'll have to figure out when you're going in a certain session whether or not you want to bring a psychologist along, and/or a doctor, and/or a fighter, and/or a researcher. So you might have chapters where you know or you hope that there's going to be very little combat, and everyone plays, or 90% of the people that are playing will be playing intellectual characters, and there might be one person that has a bit of fighting skill. So if something happens, they can sort of defend the party. Vice versa, if you're going into a lair of an evil being, you've done a bunch of research in a previous mission, now you're going in to try and take them out. Everyone might play, or more people might play combat roles, and there might be some support classes to keep them buffed. So it's sort of easier to think about it like that. So yeah, perfect. Absolutely, you should definitely play like a psychologist is good, because are you giving yourself any, like, what sort of advantages are you giving yourself?
Well, so far it's like danger sense and photographic memory.
Well, danger sense is a supernatural ability, so you can't take it.
Okay.
Yeah. Only mundanes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because danger sense is like spidey sense.
Okay. So I'll save 15 points.
So yeah. So one of the other things that I mentioned that I didn't explain now, well, because you missed the last one, is that in this world there is no supernatural skills or equipment, right, or knives or swords or guns. There's none of that. There is some. There is none of that that is not tainted with evil. There is no, like, and played other games where you've got like the sword of light, and then you can fight the sword of darkness, right? Like there's always like good and evil. There's always a balance. In this world, anything that is otherworldly is bad, is evil. Now it's also incredibly powerful, but it's also like, so it's got an allure, and a lot of characters will want to. So for example, you might find like some sort of a whip, let's say, that inflicts fire damage to unholy beings, but then it will also have, let's say, a *2 insanity multiplier. So every time you get an insanity point, it's doubled. Or if you get 2, you get 4. So there'll always be like pros and cons, and you'll really have to decide before you use these, is it worth the risk, right? So there's always going to be a little bit of that balance. You might even decide again when you're playing. I really want the game to be where the players can sort of sit around before you play and say, okay, who are we playing? Oh, we don't want that guy to play because he's got that thing that like there might be an item that's cursed. So when you use it, it gives you some sort of ability, but then it means that the party is always cursed and they're always getting much. So there's pros and cons. There's also like the equivalent of learning magic, dark pacts, all that stuff, and it's all there's nothing good. There's power, right? It's like the dark side.
Yeah.
Right. There's just no light side.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna turn the heat on. I don't know why it's not so on.
You're a detective.
Yeah.
What's your character?
I'm basically like sort of a spy.
Okay.
It's mostly for like big companies, so like corporate espionage sort of thing.
Okay.
And then Corey is a gypsy.
Okay. Cool.
So is she coming?
She is not coming today, unfortunately. So the plan is to have 7 or 8 players, and then 5 or 6 will show up at any given week.
Okay.
We're still struggling to have that large of a player base, but I understand from Drew you might only be able to play about once a month.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's fine. And no, I mean, you're not. I have people that come, they come for one session, and they're like, okay, that was fun, and then I never see them again. That's okay too. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not for everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sort of trying to design it in a way to make it as casual as possible, because I've had a lot of struggles in the past where people say, oh, I want to play, and then like getting people together on a weekly basis just doesn't work, and then no one ever. So we try to play every Tuesday,
okay.
And this is sort of like a time slot that I've created as like available, and it's always been. I haven't changed this time slot in like 6 years, I think, at this point. I've lived in three different houses, and I'm still doing that same time slot. So it just makes it easy for some people to like mark it off on their schedule, and then like you put it in your Google Calendar, you put it in your daily journal, and you always know, like, every Tuesday, if you're free, come play. If you want to, if not, no big deal.
Sounds good.
Maybe have a Facebook group too.
Yeah, and the Facebook group you'll learn about it on the.
Hey, Mike, did I ever read any dance scenes?
Oh, you do Hyperion? Yeah, I've read Hyperion.
Have you? I'm just reading it now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sid was trying to get it into it for years, and I finally looked at it. Oh, it's not that.
Man, I'm surprised you haven't read it. It seems like right up your
I
street.
know. Well, yeah, frankly, it's a classic up there too. Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
But it's like
pretty
reader
disturbing.
nightmarish. It's
Really
the one with the priest.
The crucible, yeah, the crucible. You were not the crucible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to read. It's just really hard.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it is good. I haven't read any of the sequels.
Nice, like, oh, that's really cool. Like, how they have like light up planets, like have these like mirrors that part of the sun.
Yeah.
It's the technology. It's so great.
It's so neat. Yeah. I'm reading this series that The Expanse. The Expanse. It's a sci-fi TV show. It's on Netflix. It's
It's pretty good.
but it's based on.
I haven't seen it yet. Someone just started telling me about it the other day and said like, you have to watch this.
Yeah, I'm reading the books it's based on, and man, they're so good. They're pulpy, right?
Okay.
But they're just good fun. Books. They're not nearly as nightmarish though.
Are you a big sci-fi?
Yeah, pretty.
Okay. Good.
All that stuff.
Yeah, I've read a lot of like classic stuff like Clark and Heinlein and stuff like that. I would have to say probably my favorite is Esther, Tiger. I read. Okay, it is like it's like he hasn't written a lot of books, and it's just like a Bastard. Yeah. Alfred. It's also Carved the Stars, My Destination, but I have a copy that's called.
Oh, The Stars My Destination. I've heard that.
Right. Yeah. So it's the same. Tiger is just another. What was originally sort of published as.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just
Yeah. Anyway, it
I was
is.
going to say that.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal story.
Is that a revenge story, or is that? It might be something else.
It's a what?
Is it a revenge story?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
It
guy
is.
kind of his ship.
It's
destroyed,
shipwrecked.
is left for
Yeah.
dead?
Yeah. That's
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
remember
read?
seeing that in the story. Yeah. I haven't read it.
Oh yeah. It is.
Everything I
It is.
looks good.
Yeah. And so in Babylon 5, one of the characters is named Fester as a homage to that author.
Cool.
So it's the guy who plays who originally plays Chekhov in Star Trek. He's like the psi guy, psionic. One of the only psionics in the universe. Always has these like cloak and dagger like conclusions happening. But yeah, it is. I always try reading other I've read tons of sci-fi, and it's still like by far 100% my favorite.
Nice.
It's just got some really neat concepts in it.
Oh, cool. I get to read.
Yeah, it's not a long read either. It's a short story. So.
Yeah. It's a short story.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, remember Duke Prince?
Yeah.
His second novel is next to published a few months ago.
Oh no way. Oh, it's good for him.
So I ordered it on Amazon. It's got like equivalent of that investment too. And he's got like this distribution deal and stuff too. So like,
Excellent. Is that a? It's a fantasy novel, isn't it?
it's kind of
It's like faith, sort of like
magic realism.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
based on the gods.
Oh no, that was the first one.
Okay, the second one they're not connected.
Yeah, no, not at all. The first one was based on like Hindu mythology, it's like the story of the gods. They're all very like he like fleshed out the characters, made like a story based on it. That's cool. The new one's kind of I'm not really sure, but it's quite different. There are a lot of like coding kind of things, like you're saying, coding all the references and different languages. It's called the Codex for Gnostics.
But he's going to show it to me on his phone at the party.
Okay, yeah,
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
It's saying it's available on Amazon.
Yeah, it's available now. That's great. Yeah, it's really sweet. Good red, but it takes off. The style is very Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Friend.
Oh man.
It's not horror, but it's his writing style is. He's Clive Barker. Hellraiser?
Right. Yeah. I remember playing a computer game that he wrote. It's called, I think it's Clive Barker's Undying.
Oh,
Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of that.
Oh man, like I don't know how well it's dated, but it was so scary. I just cannot do horror games. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember playing.
Yeah,
horror,
no.
This is
Yeah.
probably okay.
Well, no, but they're not. I mean, yeah, I think the only ones that played are like the ones that everyone's played.
Like Amnesia.
Yeah, Amnesia. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating more than anything else to me. It's just like reset. I mean, the jump scares are one thing, but it's just like running out of oil for your lamp and like just being like, now I'm stuck. What the fuck do I do? Like, I gotta go.
Insane.
Yeah, right.
Good.
That's the best part, though.
What?
What about the werewolves?
Play
Though?
those.
If you can take the werewolves out,
It's
it's
just
like
like
the you never know. Well, sometimes you need it. Ah!
Yeah, but you used to always show me scary movies. Every time I went over your house, to be like, man, I just, you know, so it's like, woo.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh my god! So I watched one with a friend the other day. It was called Terrifier, and I hate that. Like I like it. Like, it was awesome.
I've seen that one.
Have you seen Terrifier?
Well, no, I've seen it like listed. I've seen pictures
On the
from
wall
it.
at Blockbuster.
It's
I mean, like, I don't want to catch that.
It's a clown with like black eye makeup
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's like the what do you call it? It's the French clown.
My
Hero. It's Hero.
Oh.
And it's so creepy. I just like I loved it. It was super creepy, scary. But this movie just disturbed me because of the fun factor too. And it was just it's over the top, like horrific, like just brutally gory. Like,
But is it realistically brutally gory?
Yeah,
Because most of the gory stuff is
well, no,
like
that's
not
what I mean. You're just,
realistic.
like,
Like you watch, you're like
it
stupid.
seems
Like,
like
it
it's
doesn't look real. Like
this girl gets sawn in half and it looks like it's on. But it's really based on like 80s slasher, like it's kind of
Okay.
dark style.
Okay.
So it does have that like nostalgic kind of feel to it, but I was like,
It's kind of a dark comedy as well.
no, it's not nothing funny.
Really?
It's just over the top.
is there no plot? Is it like one of those movies that has like
Yeah.
no real plot? It's just
Yeah.
all like
This guy's a maniac, like dressed like a clown, it's terrorizing people, just kills everybody. It's insane. Yeah. I like no, I found it hard to finish. Like after in hindsight, I was like, hey, that was really good. And I was like, okay, I'm only watching the rest of this because of you, because I'm like very uncomfortable with this. Like,
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like I love horror movies. You know? This wasn't a good time.
Have you seen like? For me, it's the suspense that just kills me. Like it's on my list to watch, and I know I'm never gonna watch it. A movie called It Follows. Have you heard of that?
That one's really good.
I've heard it's really good. Everyone that's seen it says it's so good.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But I don't know, man. It sounds so scary. Like it's just about this demon that hunts down.
Like
like
it,
evil
like
and
it,
something.
it follows you wherever you go, but it only walks. So
Right.
it's just super fucking scary because, and it also appears as just about anything, or just like a random person will just like start walking towards you, and just like, what the fuck, what are you doing?
Oh.
And yeah, it's super fucking scary.
what's that one where the guy only kills people? His only weapon is a spoon.
What?
So he's like just killing them really, really slowly over like years in time because he's always like. Have you seen that?
What?
He's like,
What?
It's just uses a spoon. Because he's not, it doesn't really do
Years
any
and
damage
years and
to you.
years?
It's like years and years and years. I don't know if it's I think it's a comedy. I don't think it's like a real thing. He like jumps out at people and like scoops at them with a spoon. And nothing happens, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Just like, and then they just keep showing up, and finally by the end, the guy's like going crazy because the guy's always like trying to target
Yeah,
him.
I've heard of it.
Got spoons. Not in a good They're actually making a miniseries of Hyperion.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'll definitely watch that. Maybe Nicolas Cage is going to be in a version of The Color of Space.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you read The Color of Space?
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah.
So disturbing.
They had I haven't seen it, but they have this independent movie like that was based on that. It was like I saw some snapshots from it, and it's all black and white except the colors actually this weird like ultraviolet like strange.
Yeah.
That's the only color.
That's cool. That's a good way of doing it.
I need to read them all over again. I actually have an anthology that's like hardcover, and it's got like a hardcover case. It's all like I don't know what you call it, but it's like almost like a sewn on, like stitched together sort of thing. And I don't read it like that's just there, you know. And then I have the cheaper the Necronomicon copy, like the PDF. Yeah, it's just wow, it's really cheap. It's kind of cool, like later whatever, but it's $10.
Yes.
So that's it, like.
You know what? I'll be honest. Like a lot of the stories, like I love Color of Space. Call of Cthulhu's really good. Devilish Horror is really good. But like a lot of the classic ones just are really hard. Like the one that the thing is based on. Is that one about the At the Mountains of Madness. Yeah.
That's actually
Well,
my favorite.
Really?
Yeah,
It's one of
Man,
my
I just
favorites.
found it so hard to read. Like it just goes on and on.
Well, that's the struggle, right? Is that a lot of people when they get into reading, they'll start at the beginning, right? And you really don't want to start at the beginning because it's a lot more different. The earlier stories are a lot more. Now, yeah, but also they don't have as much movement. They don't have as much flow. Like you read the later stuff, you're like, oh, now I get it. Now then you can go back afterwards and then read them. But you start at the beginning, you're like, what? I remember like rereading, like you start reading, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back because I feel like my eyes sort of just like skimmed like 4 pages. I don't know what's been happening.
Yes,
For the
yeah,
last 4 pages.
yeah.
And then you go back, and you go back and reread it a second time.
There was a lot of like awesome stuff, like when they find the cat and they want it sliced up, like vivisected.
Yeah, like what I liked about it was like not necessarily the story itself or even the atmosphere. It was just like the world building. Like it was very inorganic the way that it's like telling about like how all this stuff happened. It was just like kind of long-winded and stuff, but like the actual idea is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, how they found the 2 different bases of civilization. Like one of them went to
Yeah, exactly. Those big towers that they're scared of, basalt towers. What's in the things that come out of life? How they like created humanity as like a mistake in a lab or something, or created life on Earth as a mistake. It's so good. That's a good point where I love this the Shoggoth finally comes in. Like they get deep enough down in the temple, they hear the noise, just and it comes to the thing. It's so good. But I don't know. I guess it's like it was when they find the beliefs. I don't know. I just find it hard to live.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, I like the
like,
concept.
it's definitely like one of his more long-winded stories. Just like he just drones on and on and
Yeah.
on, and like I find that his language was also really dense in that one. It was just like long word after long word. You're just like, shut the hell up and just tell me what's happening.
Yeah. Like he's got these great ideas, but just like encased within this language is so good.
Yeah.
I actually found that with Hyperion too. I found it really hard to get into just because he introduces all these concepts, all this technology, and never explains it. Just the forecasters and fatlines.
Oh right.
What?
Yeah.
It sounds like nonsense. We'll talk about a cloud, and he'll say like it has this technical like scientific name for a cloud. No one really uses it.
Right.
Or like if I didn't have biology degree, it's like what the hell is a gymnosperm? You know, it's like can't you just say like a confer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or not.
Did you see?
No, I'm ready.
Okay. Did you see Annihilation?
Yes.
What did you think?
I liked it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like it's right up there.
Oh, for sure. I mean the whole just the pseudoscience behind it is just very much. That's the only thing I had. I was like, damn, the whole DNA thing.
Yeah.
It sucks because I'm so involved in that world. That I had it. But it's an interesting idea. I guess
Like it's too bad to me that they even used the word DNA.
yeah.
If they hadn't tried to pin it to DNA, which like enough people know that's not how DNA, it kind of cheapens it. If they just sort of let you think, left the blanks open, let you fill them in yourself, then it kind of retains its credibility a little bit.
Yeah. No.
In the books, the main character's a biologist.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Actually, the craziest part though, which and I totally love the movie too. But the creepiest part is that friggin' crazy. You know what I'm gonna say?
I know what exactly what you say.
You see this friggin' skeleton there.
Oh my god.
And then it starts like it devoured the like human voice and the emotions of the person that it killed, right?
Yeah.
So then it starts like so it's like help me.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the most disturbing things I've seen.
He just eats that person's face.
Yeah. Oh man, like that scene where it's like, what the hell is going on? Like you hear her screaming, and then the woman like runs out, and you just hear like, oh, silent,
Mm-hmm.
and then the breathing, like it comes in, you see the shadow come in, and then like you still don't really know just how weird it is, and then it like sticks in, and then it like screams in that woman's voice.
Oh, you know what's funny too? I watched that with Seb. He introduced that to me, and he got me like high as hell.
Oh,
Before we watched that movie,
that's awesome.
Pretty good. Like,
Oh
what's that?
man.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It's a good twist, like at the end too. almost how it's like, you know, you see like they're not like who they are. You would think they like the right one got out or they switched or something.
Oh yeah.
And at the end, it's like it's still the two of those two are like maintaining whatever it was. You see like an iris like that's
Yeah. Shimmer.
yeah. Oh man, it was so psychedelic too. Like the way the graphics were done, I was like, that they finally found a way to visualize an acid trip. Like that was so just spot on the way like just the shimmering like rainbow kind of phosphorescent thing. It's like it's just like perfect.
Yeah, even in like the ambient shots and stuff, it's all kind of lights up, the sun rays are all kind of diffused.
Yeah, they're all like refractive. So. Yeah, because it's the whole it's because it used the not only refractive, that was the thing, not only refractive like waves, but refractive behaviors.
Like all I need to say is this thing, this intelligence, all it does is it takes things apart and puts them together again. That's all. They don't need to start talking about
That's matter, like you just said matter.
Yes, yeah.
Have you ever heard or read anything on SCP?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I spent a lot of time.
Okay, so I played a GURPS game with my old GM, like the guy that used to be in my group, and he ran an SCP campaign, and it was just like, it was just a mess. Like every single game session, we were running away.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to discover what this. So SCP is like, I don't know if you know, it's like secure containment.
Oh, it's like true.
It's basically these completely wacky, like, I don't know even what to call it, but like other dimensional, like
anomalies.
Anomaly. Thank you. Yeah, like an anomaly that just has is completely outworldly in every single way. And so you're trying to sort of discover, like we've gone in this town, we're all these like normal, we're all these like, you know, soldiers or people with mercenary backgrounds or different people, and we're all trying to discover something's gone on in this town, and we're trying to figure out what's happening. We're going from house to house, talking to people, amassing clues with no fucking clue what's going on. Nothing bad is happening, and we don't really know what's finally happening. We get to this like abandoned train yard, and there's all of a sudden like things are not what they actually, like things that aren't real are attacking us. We're attacking them back because we think they are real, and then you just die. Like you just, I mean, I'm not explaining this. We don't even. It stands for secure, contain, protect, and it basically means that like in some of these anomalies, what you're trying to do is you're trying to define them and potentially either deal with them, like eradicate them in some way, but really what you're trying to do is capture them and then bring them back to this gigantic lab where they test them and they do. And every once in a while, when you're going out to get one SCP, they'll give you another one of the SCPs that they've already researched, and it's like a tool that you can use when you go out into the field to do stuff. But I mean, we all went through 5 or 6 characters because you just get one-shotted by these like random figures, shoot each other because you think that your buddy is like this monster, like, and it's like roll on your perception with like -40, like how the fuck are you gonna pass it? There's no. So when you were talking about like that same scene, and that's what I find in Annihilation, that same sort of thing where when they're in that room and they're that beast, and they're all of a sudden like we're completely out of our element. Like what the fuck do we do, right? They're just going deeper and deeper into this field, and they know it's going to get worse and worse. And they're listening to those logs of those people that died before them. And they're like, how can they get so fucked up? It's like, there's no other way. That's what's going to happen to you, right? So it's the same thing with SCP. Like, there's no.
So it's a style. It's a genre.
Oh man, it's a wiki. Yeah, it's an online wiki that's just
it's
proud.
like a fictional universe that they made a website for, and it's like basically a wiki of just like all these like fictional anomalies that this like research.
Yeah, and
I had a secret organization that is tasked with containing all these things, and so this wiki is supposed to be. The idea is it's a secure website that catalogs all these things. You can go and just click through to all these and like it lists like how to contain this thing in like a cube of steel that has to be 3 meters thick or something like that. Yeah, but it's so good.
It's very detailed. Yeah, that's it there. And so I had to stop.
It's really creative.
I had to stop playing that game, and I had to stop my GM from running it because I would go to work for 8 hours a day. Like before I ran my own company, like I'd go to work 8 hours a day, and then I'd come home to role play, and I would be like, I don't want to role play because it's just so much work. Like it's like you don't feel like you're having fun. Like I just felt stressed out all the time. You know, you can't. You don't have any like special like legal enforcement either. So the cops are after you for whatever reason because like there's another team that's there that's trying to contain it, and you're shooting at them, and then the cops show up because someone's called them, and you can't be like, oh, I'm with the SCP, and they're like, it's like they disavow any like knowledge of who you are, and anyway, yeah, it's just the world just starts, you know, completely fucked, and then just gets worse and worse as the game goes on. So that's why I figured if you hadn't already heard about it, I would like mention it because it's like it's that complete lack of like you have no fucking clue what's gonna happen. You have no clue.
Oh, they're so random.
Yeah.
Dude, they're really cool though. It's worth checking out. It's
Yeah.
it's really fun.
How they based RPGs.
So we'll just start and see how it goes, I guess. You yeah, Vitaly's character is for the most part done.
Yep.
Do you want to give us any sort of background, or are you just gonna just like play it as it happens? I know you like being secretive.
Well, we'll see how it happens.
I have not been able to access the Eclipse folder. I don't know. It's just giving me it's giving me an error page. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me a second. What is your email address? I don't think I got it.
Nobody wants to go to YouTube.
No. That's fine. Totally fine. You want to just type it in?
Sure.
Sorry, that makes sense. Sorry. Make sure you're not on. The whole world will be emailing you.
No, it's just.
No. I don't put my phone number on there either, so I know what it's like.
Drew sent me a link, but I don't know when I click through it. Just
Yeah. You have to have. It's not publicly available, so
Oh.
now you're on.
Oh, I can share.
No, you have to add them from the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says you're offline. I don't know.
That's weird. I've got my data about an hour.
Yeah.
Does that have background that says that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I mean, if we're just good to go.
Oh no,
let's go.
yeah. I think that there's some stuff in there that you can read, but there's nothing that you'll need for like the game.
Oh, okay. It's not like a background story for my character.
No.
Okay.
None of that stuff is there. So you'll be able to, like I literally made that like 20 minutes before you
Oh,
arrived.
wait. Okay. Cool.
It's completely out of the blue. So at separate moments throughout the week, all of you around the table have been dropped off by the local bus in front of Archibald Broodry's rooming house. It's a fairly nondescript three-gabled house on 10 Penny Lane, and the street is adorned with red maple trees all the way down. As you sort of hoisted your suitcases in your hands and walked up the gravel driveway, neighbors waved, bought you glasses of lemonade. It's a very traditional 1920s style, you'd say more or less stereotypical family suburb in the town of Arkham. Entering into the home, you were greeted by Archibald, who is a man you'd estimate in his mid to late 70s, deep furrowed forehead with small glasses that pince-nez that just sort of like clip onto his nose and have no temples or anything of the sort. You can't really tell where his hair, what little wisps of his hair ends and when his eyebrows begin. They're sort of combed into one gigantic mass on his forehead with these gigantic like furrows and knots. They are stained with yellow, and he's got a pipe, a sort of church warden's pipe, clenched in his teeth, and the bowl sits in his lap, and he's got a small wheelchair that he uses to gambol around the lower floor of the house in which you are now currently staying. As you're each given a room, which is fairly small and nondescript, with a bare bookshelf, save for a Bible, and there's a small wash basin and a small cabinet in each room, and then there's a shared bathroom and a shared kitchen. And as you are sort of staying at this house, you're all there for different reasons. Most of you are looking to just unwind a little bit. The general stresses of modern society are just a little bit much, and you're just looking for a place to just relax and spend an indeterminate number of months in the sleepy town of Arkham. Some of you are here for Miskatonic University to be able to go and study. Some of you are here on assignment, and some of you are trying to escape your past. No problem.
We'll see how that goes.
And as the week progresses, you slowly meet your fellow residents, roommates, I guess you'd say, over shared dinner, and you do notice that when you first showed up, there was a man crouched on the corner of the sofa near the piano for the first 2 nights, who glanced about furtively, and no one sort of gave any notice to, and after the first 2 days he seemed to disappear, and no one really mentioned where he went or who he was. And you see new people sort of come in, sometimes stay for a couple hours, a couple days, and then leave, but for the most part you're slowly starting to see a menagerie of sorts of different eccentric characters growing at the rooming house. Over one dinner conversation, very rarely do you see Archibald chatting with the residents. He normally spends most of his time in the study and the observatory, which are at the back of the house. He's got a large telescope that he tends to always peer into the heavens with, and you can often be found passed out amidst empty whiskey bottles slumped over his telescope in the mornings, snoring until the late hours of the afternoon, where he rouses himself and then avails himself to the kitchen to eat some cold leg of lamb or mutton or whatever was left from the dinner the night before. But this particular evening, he's in fine spirits, and he is extolling on and on about how he's been chatting with a friend of his at the university, and this person has been discussing about how he's been trying to get into the there's like a scholarly prize program with a very prestigious sort of grant application that's attached to it, and he's been trying his best to get in with Professor Venterman, who is the wildly eccentric, long since appointed sort of senior researcher of this program, and determines who gets the grants, who gets to apply for them, and so forth. And has been trying to get into the good graces with him, and furthermore has also been trying to research or find other people that have previously won the prize to speak with them to try and figure out, what sort of things they did right or wrong in order to get into the program. But he's been having a really tough time finding these people. So Archibald is hoping that some of the residents of the home that he so pleasantly providing reduced rates for might, go in and have a little poke around the university and perhaps help his dear friend get a leg up on the competition and get into this particular scholarship program. So,
I suppose it's the least we can do.
yeah, well, I mean that's what he's hoping. So that's definitely good news to him. And he kind of looks around the room furtively for those who wish to perhaps volunteer and decide to assist. And he'll also be happy to pay for any bus fare for those who wish to go to the university at some point this week in order to inquire.
Well, I don't know how much good it will do, but I'd gladly go. And
So your character has a friend who works at the university. Her
Okay.
name is Lucy Petty, and she is an archivist's assistant. She's in her first year. You've sort of given her a little bit of advice on librarianing.
Mhm.
The Dewey Decimal System is probably quite new at this time, and so you've been giving her a little bit of guidance as to how she might be able to sort of impress her.
Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy Petty. So you can use her perhaps as a way to gain access to some of the other areas of the university that you might not otherwise be able to if that suffices.
My headcanon is that Lee has arrived maybe a few weeks ago. She's been assigned a post at the Arkham Junior High School
Correct.
library.
Correct.
She's not from Arkham.
That's correct.
She's from out of town.
Yeah.
And so she's taken the bus here. That's the job she's able to get. She's a bit of a newbie, and she doesn't really know her way around. But luckily, she has this friend maybe that helped her get this job at the university. So I'd be more than happy to go and drop in and have a chat with Lucy. And I'm sure any of you would be welcome to.
Why not? Heard great things from the university.
So yeah, the Miskatonic University has been in growth for quite some time, and you'd say that it's earned quite an impressive reputation throughout the academic community. Following the example of Jeremiah Orn's original donation of over 900 books, the college became notorious for seeking out and acquiring many texts, tomes, and books as possible. Unlike most of the academic institutions, Miskatonic did not shy away from books that dealt with esoteric topics, nor did it limit its search to works from America or Europe. Not long before Miskatonic boasted a library that contained works that were literally available anywhere else in the world. Scholars and academics from across the globe soon made their way to Arkham to take advantage of the collection, and the college eventually grew into an institution that was widely admired and respected. Despite having quite a small size of a campus in the city, Miskatonic has employed a faculty of professors that were just as educated and respected as any of the nearby Ivy League schools. And not only was the college library the equal of Harvard, Brown, and Yale, but it was superior in those distinguished institutions when it came to the arcane and esoteric topics. By the mid part of the century, the college had grown from a simple local school to a leading institution at the forefront of the academic world that attracted students, scholars, and professors from around the world. And in 1866, it went from being just a college to a full-blown university. So Arkham today in the 1920s, you'd say that honestly the greatest strength of the city is in the university. While the city and economy have risen and fallen over the century and a half since the school's founding, the university itself has continued to expand and grow without pause. There are businesses in Arkham that cater exclusively to the school, judging that the steady flow of new students and professors into the school represent an infinitely renewing source of customers. While much of New England has missed out on the economic boom that much of the nation is currently enjoying, a small portion of that boom has found its way to Arkham through the university and its contacts throughout the country. It remains to see whether catering Arkham's businesses specifically to the university can be successful or even advisable. The long-term source of revenue for the city, but there's no doubt that the school's very presence lends additional prestige to the entire town. And these notes are available in the quick, so you'll have access to them as well. So you guys decide to wait until the morning to end up heading over to the university, and you all will have a quite tasty breakfast and head your way down to the bus stop, and the same blue bus that dropped you off the week before comes chugging down the road. Any of you who are more mechanically inclined would believe that the engine could probably use a good spring cleaning. It sounds like one of the cylinders is completely off balance, and you don't know how long it's going to continue to last. But nevertheless, it got you there, and hopefully it'll get you to the university. When you get on board the bus together, you pay your fare, which is 5 cents. And you notice that the leather seats it's a single story bus, no double decker or anything like that. It's a single story bus. The seats are all different motley colored of leather patchwork. It look like they've been worn out by plenty of butts and then repatched and reupholstered numerous times. And you honestly can't really guess how old the bus is. And the bus driver is a cheery man with a large ginger mustache and a hand-rolled cigarette that is sort of dribbling ashes all down the front of his tunic. And he greets you with a quick lift of his hat, and the bus winds its way through the town towards the university. You notice that it goes past a number of stores. You see there's some sort of a firearms establishment of some sort. You see a couple tailor shops. You see a number of book binding and book repair shops, all of which seem to have a number of people and books sort of piling out of windows and doors, respectively. They seem to be very, very well appointed and very busy compared to other shops on the main street. Even though it's 8 o'clock in the morning, it seems that there's already quite a lot of activity as you wind your way down the cobblestones that approach the university. You see students all about, milling around, of all shapes and sizes. It's very. I don't know how many of your other characters would be sort of familiar with having gone to school, depending on what you sort of what your career follows. But you've never, if you have gone to school, you've never seen such a wide variety of cultures. There is, and exactly, that's right, and yeah, kobolds, bugbears, they're all represented here. But what's most surprising is that no one seems like they're dressing to fit in. Everyone is very proud of their heritage. Everyone is wearing the clothing of their country, and no one is giving them a hard time for it. You see people from different cultures conversing. You see a man speaking in Russian to another man speaking French, and they're both making their hardest to make each other understood as they sort of peruse over a shared text. And they
So are we in the Miskatonic Library?
Well, no, you're actually just heading into the.
Oh, these are the bookshops.
Yeah, that's right. So you're just heading into the up the sort of cobblestone streets, looking out the windows of the bus. And as you approach the sort of the front gates or the front archway of the university, there are just students milling around. There's a gigantic fountain that has what looks like to be a mermaid holding a book in one hand and a trident in the other, and all around this this fountain are wooden benches, and people are sitting, reading, and sort of talking to each other. And the bus sort of makes its way around this fountain, and underneath the archway of the Miskatonic University, as it's sort of emblazoned. And the bus stops, and as you guys sort of start to head off the bus, there is a gigantic group of schoolgirls waiting to get on the bus, and they're all giggling and talking to each other and sort of pointing in various. Are any of you? Does anyone have any like attractive?
Sex appeal.
Do you have sex appeal?
I don't know what that.
That would be like, yeah. So you've got charisma and appearance. So you're an attractive lady.
Okay.
But you're also there's different levels. So you can see here you've got like charisma 1, appearance attractive. So attractive means that your appearance is attractive, and then there's other levels above that. And so I believe you've got 2 points. So there's like cute, and then there's a 2 point, then there's a 4 point. So you've got 4 points. So you're quite a stunning individual. But charisma also means that you also have a really great way of, when you open your mouth to talk to people, they just like you even more.
Okay.
Like you've just got a very easy way of communicating with people. So it looks like all the sort of girls are like pointing at. Well, I mean, all of you have some sort of level of attractiveness.
Goes after you.
Well, can you explain, like, this is a good opportunity. Let's all go around and sort of describe what sort of clothing your character might be wearing. And you can wear whatever you want. There's nothing that's written in your character that says how you have to dress. It's entirely up to you. And we'll start with you, Drew.
I guess, well, I'm a detective.
Yeah.
Detectivist.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. What do you want to wear? I mean, you can wear super traditional, trench coat and sort of thing, or you can wear whatever you want. You can wear suspenders and a bra.
More traditional, trench coat.
The bra's hidden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a hat? What kind of hair do you
like
have?
a-
Do you have sunglasses? Do you have glasses? What
Do you
kind of
smoke?
shoes do you wear? Do you smoke? Yeah, exactly.
I do smoke.
Are you smoking right now? I would guess you probably do because you do have an addiction to tobacco. So, the ever-present cigarette.
Yeah. And I guess I'm wearing really creative when it comes to like describing things. Wearing sunglasses that are on my face.
Okay. Excellent.
And yeah, I guess like a drawers, is that what
Yeah,
it goes
yeah,
with?
yeah. Yeah, a lot of most men wore hats up until JFK, so that sort of makes sense.
Will be.
Yeah. Right. You basically wouldn't leave the house without your head covered if you're being a traditionalist.
That's true. It's a type of hat.
It's got a smaller brim.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. Like a fedora has a larger brim, and a trilby has a smaller brim. A bowler hat has a dome shaped.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, that's a bowler hat. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I want the truth.
The trilby's got like the two little sort of.
It's like a peak.
Yeah. It's like got a kind of a. Yeah, it's a good hat.
How about you, Alan?
So this guy is like wear this like cowboy,
Okay.
but with like binocular.
We're not a monocle.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like hanging somewhere or like.
Or in his eye.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this cowboy hat like suitcase, like the one you use like professor one for documents and like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But the rest is like cowboy appearance.
Okay. So you've got like a big belt buckle.
Yeah.
And you've got like a cowboy shirt on and like cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Do you
like a hat.
have spurs as well?
Sir,
Do you wear spurs?
what this?
Like on the back of your boots, like they have these little metal things with like. So when you ride a horse, you kick the horse and they've got spikes
Well,
on them.
probably not.
And as you walk, they go. Ching, ching.
No, probably not. Not this.
Howdy, children. you like poke your hat in your finger. Okay.
2 bandoliers.
Yeah. Gringo. What's your so what do you do you have any facial hair? Do you have any,
sure.
Do you have like
Sure,
a beard or do you have like
Yeah, it's like normal professor beard. Yeah,
a professor beard? Okay.
yeah, probably like this long.
Okay. And now you?
My character is wearing a very well-made, impeccably clean suit with a nice military-style trench coat.
Okay.
And nice fedora.
Okay.
Nice beard going on, not too big.
Well manicured,
Well manicured.
oiled.
Yes.
With your jacket, like, is it a uniform jacket? Like, is it plain? Is it clearly a military issue, or is it just
Yes, it's very.
okay? Does it have like ranking anywhere on it of any sorts? Okay. Okay, and now
More like military surplus or ex service?
Excellent.
I
Well,
think the only way you'd be able to tell the difference is if it was surplus, it would be ratty as shit. But
Yeah.
if it was like ex-service, you'd keep it in good condition. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's in good condition.
Yeah.
Used to be soldiers.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Right. So Lee is pretty conservative. She dresses quite plainly. She's, I guess she's quite pretty, but she's got brown hair that's tied in a bun. Classic librarian. But no, she has quite conservative values and is actually quite shy. She wears her looks kind of awkwardly. This is her first job. It's her first posting away from her hometown, and she's a little insecure about it. She's a little bit resentful of Lucy, who actually got her the job because they were classmates together, and Lucy managed to get this job at like one of the best universities in the world, best libraries in the world, like this world-renowned place. And the job, like she's grateful, but the job that Lucy got her is, at the junior high,
Right.
down the street.
Right.
So
with the shits all day.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like erasing the marks from the margins and
Right,
stuff to
right.
a page,
Right. And all a bunch of like kids books and stuff like that, or like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
books
she's
for teenagers. Where
yeah,
she's looking
exactly.
at all
It's
the
like Twilight. And,
right.
but in terms of looks, I don't I suppose just barely buttoned down. And,
trim and prop.
yeah.
So we didn't really discuss it, but I'm going to assume that you probably called Lucy before you headed off to the university, so
Okay.
that you would be able to meet her for her
She's
sort of
expecting
show. Yeah, she's expecting you, and so when you guys step off the bus, you're a little bit jealous. You look over and you see that she's standing talking to a professor that you recognize as Dr. Barnes, and he is a sort of a leading local expert in archive technology and in archive techniques and in research techniques, and you've read a couple of his books on sort of how to organize books, all from the same author. So like in a library, when you have like books all by the same person, he sort of has this technique of organizing the books in a certain way that you found was just absolutely marvelous. You sort of maybe held this guy in a bit of like high esteem for a long time. You have never met him. You had read his stuff in the past before you came to the university, and you've heard that he was here, but you've never met him, and you recognize him instantly from his jacket photo from the book.
Oh, he's talking to
and
Lucy.
he's talking to Lucy, and she's just kind of like she's a typical blonde. She's got long long flowing blonde hair. She's not quite as pretty as you, but she does a lot more work to look pretty. So she kind of wears like a long sort of flowing skirt, and she has a much more aggressive brassiere on that sort of put her products on display, and she's got a little bit more makeup on, and she's acting very interested in what the professor is saying, and she's sort of curling her hair and smiling and talking to him, and then as she sees you, she sort of puts her hand on his arm and sort of just whispers something to him, and then he sort of turns away, and she goes, I didn't see you there, sort of thing. And clearly, you feel like she was maybe doing a little bit of that for your benefit.
Right. She was showing up.
Yeah.
And does he walk away, or is he still standing?
Yeah. He walks away.
Well, I walk up and greet her, and give her a polite hug, I suppose. Actually, no, I probably wouldn't do that. Sort of stand there awkwardly and say hello, and then I turn to this motley group of characters who actually I'm a little embarrassed by.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of a bunch of weird-looking
Weirdos.
dudes.
Yep.
And she's quite proper and established here, and
yep.
so I feel a little bit self-conscious introducing each of you.
Yeah. Now keep in mind that even though you might be sort of like a little disappointed to be with them, but you also you will feel that kinsmanship with them, right? As
Sure.
everyone who is here, but the fact that you have to be in public with them is a different story altogether.
Exactly.
They are also, like, at least these two guys are also, at least, even though they're not necessarily, scholarly in their appearance, other than this disheveled slob in the back, they're at least fairly
With the hat.
fairly attractive people.
How old are they? How old are all of us?
34.
50.
How old are you?
31.
Okay, and that's also like it welcome to change that.
That's fine.
So what is your reaction modifier? Do you introduce yourself?
Actually, I suppose this wouldn't. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
wasting your all time.
No.
This wouldn't be her first post. She's 31, in the 20s. She's not married.
It could be a career change.
Right.
It could be a number of things. And
Right.
again, you're welcome to change the age. If you saw her as being 21 or 22, you're welcome to change it. It's 100%.
Well, maybe the reason she came to Arkham to come out.
I thought we were playing like non-sexist version.
We're not.
So which means like age doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you still have to say, like, if she's 31, it might not be her first, as you said, it might not be her first job. She might have had another kick as a can as a professional feat for. You never know. So, are you introducing it? So you introduced them.
Yeah.
Are you introducing yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Are you being your traditional? Can you roll on your code of honor, please, for me? You got dice? Give me some dice.
Oh, wait,
No, so code of honor means you're rolling on so basically you're just going to roll to see whether or not you were forced to use your. So he's a code of honor, which basically means if you roll, and if the code of honor he has is gentleman PI. So it's like the most traditional, stereotypical, like you think like Humphrey Bogart kind of style detective, where you're always looking after the damsel in distress, and you're always quick to throw a punch at anyone that defames a lady, and all the traditional stuff that you think a hard-boiled detective would do. Basically, what a code of honor does in GURPS is it forces you to act a certain way if you wouldn't otherwise. So, like, let's say, for example, he saw a woman getting slapped in a club. If he didn't get up and like strong arm the guy, like why out of you, like if he decides he doesn't want to do that, then he has to roll in his code of honor to see if he would, so that I can force him to do it. So you don't have to roll it in this particular instance. I was using it more as an example to sort of explain to them how it would work. But yeah, that's more or less what it sort of means is that if you're doing something outside of your normal
What would I roll?
You'd be rolling, it's 12 or less, so you have to be rolling. If you roll under 12, then you're able to resist your code of honor. If you roll over 12, then it means you're forced to do it. So, it doesn't force you to do it very regularly. No, it's not based on your willpower. It's just an arbitrary roll. For all codes of honor is usually around 12 by default. So anyway, so do you kiss her hand, or do you, how do you, yeah, okay. Okay, the moment you take her hand and you kiss her hand, she's all like, oh, like she's like super into you instantly, almost like you rolled a really good reaction roll. So with your bonus, you get a number of you're good at rolling on the floor. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Ruben, can you roll? Oh, what is your reaction modifier? Do you have any? You have attractive though, do you not?
Oh, right.
So it should be okay. So there should be a thing called reaction modifier on the sheet. No, I'm rolling. So what is the reaction modifier? It should be at the top of the sheet. You have the regular character sheet. It's right here. So it's +2. It's +2 from Chris. So you've got appearance of 1, and you've got a +2. So you've got a total of 3. Okay. How are you greeting her?
I'm just taking off my
Just
hat.
taking off your hat? And you're not schmoozing her in any way?
Well, he's already got the game going, so I'm not,
It all depends, man.
I'm not gonna butt in.
Yeah, so she just she sort of politely sort of curtsies a little bit, and you see that she blushes a little bit, but she's not all ooh, this is this guy. And are you introducing yourself?
Yep.
Are you gonna punch him in the face?
No.
Then Drew's like, well, yeah.
But I need to find the name. I forgot the name.
End of chapter 1.
Yeah.
Okay, Professor Jefferson, University of Dallas.
Okay.
Just lift head a little bit,
Okay.
and I'm not interested in what's going on around him.
Yeah, you're just looking, because it's an amazing place to be.
Well, we'll see. I'm investigating.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it's not, it's still, there's only one place like this in the world. So even if you're dubious, it's sort of seeing something that it's like someone going to Auschwitz. You look around and you're in awe of sort of the sort of uniqueness of the place, right? It's very, very powerful in terms of that. She just sort of kind of goes. She just doesn't really look twice at you. She doesn't recognize you, and she's not really all that interested. And she sort of said, so she kind of looks at you and then says, "So where did you meet these friends?"
Yeah. I'm like, oh. Here we go.
And then she kind of looks. She kind of looks at you for a second, and then she looks. It's like, "So how are you getting along at the high school?"
Oh, fine. I'm settling right in. They're
I'm
keeping me
sure.
quite busy.
I'm sure that's good to hear. That's very good.
It's good. Everyone's very friendly.
Good. Well, I'm very pleased that you've all come to the university, and I'd love to show you around a little bit. Is there any particular area that you'd like to see? I didn't really know. Leanne, is there any place we should start with your guests?
Well, I'm sure I'd love to see the library. Wait, we're there. Remind me, we're there to.
So you're there to speak with. There's a guy, Tad Forsyth, who is Archibald's
His contact.
his sort of family friend, or someone that he's quite close with their family, and he's trying to get into this program, the scholar program that's sort of promoted by and sort of headed up by a certain researcher at the library named Dr. Benjamin.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, I suppose we all kind of know. Are you familiar with Dr. Benjamin?
It's like, oh yes, Scott, yes, Dr. Benjamin, yes. He is he's the head researcher, and he's the keeper of the tombs.
Tombs.
The tombs, the tomes, the tomes and the tombs. You see?
Tombs.
Keep the tomes and the tombs.
That's right.
You keep the arms and the sleeves. Says, yes, well, he is a bit of a strange individual, but I'd be happy to introduce you. Please come with me. Come with me. We can also take a little walk around the. I can walk you by the residences and show you how comfortable some of the rooms can be. It's very, very wonderfully appointed in there. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. I'm really happy that I get to live right on the university. So she sort of winds her way around all the different groups of professors and students as she kind of moves her way through to where obviously you see the library. And you've seen photographs of the library. It is not something that is strange to you to see, other than the sheer size. There's a gigantic rosary window that is set in the side of the building, and there's beautiful Roman columns holding up the archway as you sort of head up the well-worn stairs. And you can see that it looks like the library is sort of one of the older buildings in the university, and you can also see that other buildings have been built around it, but they've always left some space that it looks like they can continue to expand the size of the library as it continues to grow in popularity. And Lucy takes you up steps, and she sort of artfully winds you around some of the different people. It definitely looks like she's quite comfortable here. And she brings you in through the doors, and you look into the library, and you can see that it is absolutely beautiful. There's gigantic, huge, single, solid oak plinth tables that are gleaming in the sun. There's gigantic windows along both sides. It's not like you consider like your regular library, very dusty, very old. All the books, all the spines of the books are gleaming. There's brass rails that hold some of them into the shelves at the higher ranks, and there's rungs of these beautiful ladders with these gigantic banisters that you can and you can see that they're sliding back and forth along these well-oiled tracks, sliding around the universe, and some of them actually go underneath each other. There's some that go to higher ones that are on the outside, and then the shorter ones on the inside, and they're crisscrossing, and you can hear whirring and clicking noises as the bearings sort of whiz in unison. It's almost like a harmonious sound, and it smells. You can smell paper, and you can smell. It just smells like knowledge. Like it's a very cheesy thing to say, but it just smells like a really sort of well-oiled machine. And Lucy sort of, you can see that you've all been kind of caught up in taking in the space, and Lucy is obviously quite used to it, and she's just sort of standing waiting for you, and then she says, if you'd like, I can take your jackets and your hats, and I can bring you into the archives.
Sure.
So she takes your hat and your jacket. As she's doing so, you three, and actually only you two, can roll on your perception. If you've got any bonuses to your vision, if you've got any
acute vision 1.
Okay, so what that does, it costs you 2 points to buy that, and basically what that means is when you're rolling on your perception, if it's a vision-based roll, then you get an additional +1. So you've got to roll under a 13.
Does that apply here?
Yeah, it does. Yep. Ruben? Nope. Did you pass, Ruben?
Yeah.
Okay. So the two of you notice that Lucy has slipped a small white card into the pocket of this gentleman's jacket, which you did not notice because you're just still kind of looking at her, and you're not in a right angle to sort of see it. But she slips like a little card into the pocket of your jacket. And anyway, so
Such a meddler.
yeah. So she gathers all your coats and your hats, and she sort of brings them over to a small cupboard, which she opens, and it's behind a desk, and you can see that on that desk there is a brass name tag that says Junior Archivist, and then it has Lucy Petty, and it's sort of like, and you can, and as she kind of looks at it with a little bit of pride, you know, and it's beside this desk, and you can see that behind the desk there's like just a mess of papers, and you can clearly see that while she sort of you know, belies that she's like super well together and super like popular and good at what she does, you can also see that it clearly looks like she's in quite over her head, and that probably gives you a little bit of like a yes, you know, it's not all fun and games, and she has worked pretty hard here. She kind of like,
It certainly looks like they're keeping you busy.
she goes, oh yes, it's just an extra busy time of year, you know, the students are coming in, it's September, it's just like it's just so much work.
Yes, of course.
You know, and then, so she sort of like tries to like tidy the papers together, but she's not doing a great job, and she just kind of like turns exasperated, and you can see that she's a little bit overwhelmed, I think, by the situation, and she kind of, you can see that one strand of hair has sort of come loose from her perfect mane, and she kind of, you know, tries to desperately tidy it back, and produces a bobby pin and tucks it in. And then she ushers you sort of through some small doors in one of the back of the room. And as she opens these doors, there are some curtains in front of you, like blue curtains that block the actual room from view. And as she kind of ushers you into this little antechamber, and when she finds that you're all in, she closes the doors, and you're kind of in this little cocoon of curtain cocoon. And there is this really, you can sort of smell a little bit of dust, but it's surprising that when the doors close, that there is when the doors close, there's the sound from the other room is almost instantly like completely silenced. And she kind of looks and she goes, you know, the doors are insulated and fireproof. And then she pulls open the curtains, and you look into what you assume is the archives. And it is a complete and utter, the first like maybe 5 or 6 feet into this room is this, it looks like this gigantic mess. There are wire baskets full of rolled up maps or documents, no books. These are all just sheets of paper, some of them held together with ribbons, some of them held together. There's a rock on top of some of them it's on this cart, and and they all look to be completely disheveled and in no discernible order. But you can see that a lot of them have little tags on them. There's a little tag under the rock, or there's a little loop of thread, and there's a little thing hanging down off some of them. And now and sort of Lucy said, like, this is where I sort of am tasked by Dr. Venturman, and if you look past these 5 or 6 feet of all this craziness, there is just neat and complete and utter order, and everything is beautifully orchestrated, and it looks like a finely tuned machine. Everything is in its place. Everything is exactly perfect as is. And you notice that as you are coming into the room, there is a man standing beside beside you. You didn't really notice because you were kind of looking into the room, and he kind of grins, and you can sort of tell that he is probably fairly simple. I guess the easiest way to put it. He's very he's a bit of a simpleton, I guess. He doesn't look to be exactly the smartest individual, but he smiles. He's got a beautiful, warm smile, and he sort of like greets you, and he says, "Welcome, welcome. I'm Simon. Oh, would you like some lemonade or some tea? Lucy, oh, Lucy is beautiful." And she kind of smiles, and she says, "Thank you, Simon. Yes, we'd love some lemonade." And so Simon sort of totters off him. And so she brings you into the room, and and she sort of says, I'll go and try and find Dr. Benjamin. Just please stay here. Simon will be back with some beverages for you soon. And she said, yeah.
Where's your bathroom?
Upstairs. Head down the corridor towards the back of the house, and it is your first door on the right-hand side.
Cool.
The first door that's open is a cupboard, but you'll know that that's not a bathroom.
I'm just gonna grab a glass of water.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
You don't have any more soft drinks left in there, do you?
Yeah, of course I do. I have a full thing of Pedro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I stocked it for you, man.
Oh, thanks.
Get in there. Get in there. Can you get me one too, please? You alright? You alright?
Suffering from jet lag.
Yeah, I thought you were falling asleep earlier. But that's fine, don't worry about it. That's why we have video. You don't want yourself falling asleep on video.
There's like 11 hours difference in time.
Right.
from
When
here to
did
there.
you get back? 25th, right? So
Yeah.
so Friday.
Yeah.
It's my birthday on Saturday. That's how I know when 26th is.
It's your birthday this Saturday?
No, last Saturday.
Oh.
What time?
Good. Did you have a party? Or like a girlfriend to celebrate?
Yeah, we just had a quiet weekend. I'm planning on doing something either this week or next week. Like doing like an all-you-can-eat sushi, and just whoever wants to come can come. I just haven't nailed down the date yet. I've been sort of last week. Work was just so crazy, just nuts. Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, man. How old are you?
31. All right, I can't say that and get away with it anymore. 42.
I'm not gonna say anything. Thank you.
Well, I probably like stopped
yeah,
thinking
sure,
that birthday is like a good event. Probably when I got like 20. Since then, I think it's like you're just like getting older every year. So.
Right, and I think like 40 is not 40 or 41. I think none of the 40s are really all that bad anymore. People used to be like 40 is terrible, but I think now like maybe 50 is gonna feel old, but I think 40 is still like the 40s. I don't feel that bad, you know. I still feel like you can a lot of times.
Same 30.
Yeah.
I start feeling bad after 25. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I still feel young, but then every once in a while I start talking to like, you know, a 23 or 24-year-old, and I just get these inklings of like, oh man,
Right.
like you're a different generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I feel old, but I don't mind late 30s.
I found that in like undergrad for sure. Just because I went to school so late.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah.
You know, you think you're on the same page and
Yeah.
they'll say something a certain way. Wow.
Yeah.
You know nothing.
Yeah.
This is somebody.
Yeah, it's weird. Or they do things differently.
I found like the new generation, it was just like they just use, without explaining themselves, they'll just use a single word to explain like just that's, you know, just be like awkward, that'd be it.
Right. Well, I think
You just say that.
I remember
Explain
feeling.
yourself.
I remember feeling really old the other day when I because it looked like what they're rebooting Terminator, right? So they're
Are
like,
they?
yeah. So the same director, they're basically going back, and everything after Terminator 2 is struck off canon, and they're redoing it.
I mean James Cameron.
Yeah. So Cameron's back. Everything after 2 is not, and then they were just saying in the Terminator 2 that was released 28 years ago. And I was like,
Oh no.
yeah, 91. Yeah, and then that was when I realized. I remember, I mean, I wasn't that old when it came out, but still feeling like, you know, like I was an adult. Well, not adult. I knew I was a person. I was like a baby, you know, whenever. Now it's like, oh my god. So that was when I started feeling.
Yeah, it's so long ago. Like Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings came out in like, what, 99, something like that? Like, it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Where did the time go? Because you always feel like, you don't feel like that old. You look back and you're like, oh, not that much has happened. And then you're like, oh shit, 20 years have happened? What did I do in that last 20 years?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Or it's probably the same with your undergrad. Like, I don't know if you ever talk about Star Wars, but talking about Star Wars, you realize these kids, their Star Wars is the prequels.
Right.
They're like, oh, I've never seen the old ones. You know, like, oh my god.
This is the only one.
And now you're that guy. Now you're that guy that goes, oh, the old ones, those were the originals, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
gotta
you
see that.
haven't watched nothing if you've only seen Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
People who love Jar Jar Binks.
That's right.
That's their Wookiee.
Are
That's their Chewie. Jar Jar is their Wookiee.
the Star Wars references are replaced by like Harry Potter references, which I know nothing about.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's Hogwarts. Like, shut up.
I think even something like 10 years ago, I was at this volunteer event, like it's called Coming from the Cold, like at McNabb Community Center, and they have like this day-long event on Christmas Day where you can go, Christmas Eve, whatever, where you basically spend the whole day and you get food and you get movies and you do whatever you want. And the person that was running it, I volunteered to run like the movie house, the movie room, and I was like, oh, I bought all these classics, all this. I took film in university. I had all these like awesome movies that I wanted to watch. And what are they? They're like, no. We want to do a Harry Potter marathon. Watch every single Harry Potter movie in a row.
Oh my god.
Right? And they're like, John, I can't wait to watch this with you. And I'm like, I haven't watched a single one. Like I'd seen like maybe like the first 20 minutes of the first one, and it'd be like, like it's not my kind of movie. I think when it came out, I was like 20 years too old, I think. But anyway, it was just like, and they were blown away that I had not seen. Like, it was bad enough I hadn't seen, like, them all, but the fact that I hadn't seen the first one was even like, what? Like, it's like, right, exactly, it's their generation Star Wars,
Yeah. No, I want to count it. Like, yeah, at the time when they came out, I think I did the same thing. I watched them, and so like, I wanted to. I'm gonna just do it for research purposes, like I did for Twilight.
Research purposes.
Name of Kristen Stewart. Okay, moving on.
All right. Anyway, so Lucy leaves you, and she sort of heads off into the back sort of corridors of the archives section of the library, and you guys are kind of left to your own devices. Is there anything you want to do in this? So you're sort of in that you're kind of just past the kind of the messy section.
And she's going to
So we're past like messy section, or we're like?
I'll show you. I'll try. So you sort of came through these like the curtains, right? And then there's a wall here. There's a room, sort of goes like. So this is where the messy section is here. There's like carts and baskets, like overflowing with books, and not only books. There's also like weird like essay and like objects as well, like a gigantic ruby with like some sort of gold thread wrapped around it and attached to like a document that's written in like it's got sigils like around. There are runes, like completely not just books. I mean, it's predominantly like written material, but there is stuff that's also not. There are conveyor belts, like the old-fashioned ones that are like the metal rollers that go on either side of the room to the back. Yeah, like beer. Yeah, exactly.
They got it. Happy time.
What are they doing? Are they dancing? Are they out on the grass?
It's like straight out of the 70s.
Yeah, big clean fun.
Yeah.
Big experiment commercial. Mentos commercial. The Fresh Maker. All right, so this is where you guys are, more or less, in this section. So this is sort of the curtain.
Where are the action figures? Who's new here? No, we don't have to.
If you really want to put them out, you can. So we got this guy, we got this guy, we got this guy. I gotta get some more action figures. These ones are a little ridiculous. Man.
And this one.
You want to do that one again? You want to choose a figurine?
So,
You can't choose the Digimon. He's too big. You can choose this guy. As long as you want. There's 4 of you. There's 5 figures. So choose the one that you want.
this guy.
Okay.
This guy, yes.
You want
The one with stuff.
this one?
Yep.
Okay.
Staff only.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, so you guys are sort of kind of left to your own devices in this particular section here. At the back here, you can see that there's like a door that's half open, and you can read that on it. It says kitchen. And there's another door here that also looks to be ajar, and it says there's like a. They're both like no, they're both like sort of written in like painted, like lacquered signs, and this one just says preparatory. And it's also sort of slightly ajar. From in here, you can hear what sounds like someone singing and clanking and squeezing lemons.
Yes, that sound. Hope those are lemons.
Yeah. So yeah. So is there anything you guys want to do on your waiting, or
I'm gonna poke around the like
So
big piles of stuff.
okay? What do you mean? By, what? Yeah, go ahead. No, I was gonna ask. What, if you want to do something else, I'll know what. Like you're doing stuff like.
so you mentioned we passed this like mess area with unsorted goods.
Yeah. So past the messy area, this area here is sort of very sorted. Like
Okay.
not books, really like more like.
So I will just like
Scrolls,
randomly.
tomes,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Here, let me.
So I will just like randomly try to like pick up and read like few papers from the table.
Right. So you're gonna go into the back.
No.
Oh, just
the
in
messy
here?
section.
Yeah.
I just want like to randomly try to pick up and read like few papers on the table. So
Okay. Yeah.
what
sure.
is actually
Sure,
sorted
sure.
and some what kind of literature.
Sure. And what do you?
I'm looking for the weirdest looking thing that he has.
Okay. Okay.
Not gonna be like going through everything, just like scanning like.
Yeah, so roll on your perception. If you have any bonuses to perception in any sort, you can add those bonuses in.
I also have a skill for search.
Do you have search or scrounging, or what you're going to use in searching?
Search.
Okay. So what is your search higher than your perception?
No, it actually is not.
Okay. Well, I will give you +1 to your higher roll. So if your perception is higher, I'll give you +1 to that. If you use, you got to roll search first successfully.
Okay.
And then I will give you a bonus.
Yep.
Okay. Now roll perception.
With the
With the, well, actually, just straight, and I'll show you
Oh,
what. I'll show you what it, just to see what quality of items you find.
Yep.
Okay. So you find what looks like to be a in one of the in one of at the bottom of one of these sort of drawers or baskets, you see something that looks really strange, and you pull it out. It looks like to be a letter opener. It's like, but it's got a very small blade on it. The blade is only about that long. And it looks like to be made out of like a shaved. It looks like someone's taken like a tooth of an animal and like sharpened it down on the edge. Like a, tooth teeth don't really hold an edge very well. So why would somebody use a tooth? But anyway, it's a very hard black, like enamel sort of maybe a tooth or a tusk, something that it's been sort of filed down to make a bit of an edge on it. And the edge looks like it's like chipped. It doesn't look like it's smooth and like nicely sharpened or anything like that. But then what really catches your eye is the handle, the part that you hold, what looks like to be like a curled bird's claw,
Oh,
and so you hold on to like the hand of the claw sort of thing, and it's like underneath your. So can you give me your hand? So like here's the claw, and you like hold on to the claw, and then the blade like comes out of it. So you're sort of holding on to the claw. There's not much of a handle other than the claw itself. But anyway, there's like sort of like a claw, and you can see that the claw has like little like talons on the end, but like 3 of the 5 talons have fallen off. But there's 2 talons that are still sort of remaining. That's really fun.
So, I have a skill called Hidden Lore.
Right.
Could I use that to try to suss out what
Yeah.
this thing is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you can roll on your hidden lore skill.
What you got there?
Right. So just to let you know, hidden lore is a skill that is not really like, it's not something that is taught. It's something that you have a keen interest in, like weird stuff, and you sort of read books that. And this is maybe one of the reasons why you were sort of maybe drawn here to some degree, is that, and why you're bummed you didn't get a job in the university, is because this is the exact stuff that like you crave.
It's my jam.
Yeah. And you also, but keep in mind that also a lot of that stuff is gleaned, because it's not, you don't have it on a really high level,
Oh,
right? So you're basically trying to roll
So I
under
have to roll
10,
less than 10.
less
Oh,
than
right.
10 in order to succeed.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
some of this stuff is also based on like tabloids that you read at a supermarket. Like you also, you like all stuff. You know, some of it is valid, and some of it you just enjoy that sort of aspect of weird oddities.
Yeah, okay. And I rolled 7.
So you passed
Yes.
quite well too.
Right.
Okay. So you like do you show her? Or do you are you
Yeah.
going to like sort of see
When I
him?
started digging
picking
around,
it out. Yeah. So when you see it, you get like a chill down the back of your spine, and now you can roll on your willpower, please.
Oh, yes. Passed.
Okay, so for a brief moment, there's like a dribble, like just a trickle of like sweat that goes down the back of your spine, and it instantly cools, and you just sort of, you kind of almost imperceptibly shiver.
Okay.
You remember reading in a book that was, you know, in like an antiquity store somewhere in the back, where there was a myth of a Polish artifact that was made of the claws of ravens, and there was this old wives' tale that you read that said that you could make wishes, and every time you would make a wish, when it was granted, one of the talons would fall out. So that's instantly what you're reminded of. Whether this is actually that or not,
Right.
That's sort of what sort of like, because you're like, oh, I wonder if like, I remember reading that when they said that the claws would fall out, and then you realize that like 3 of the claws have fallen out, and so you instantly like, yeah, the talons of the claws fall out when the wishes are granted. And from what you recall, whenever the wishes were granted, there was always some catch.
Sure.
So it's like a
yeah.
monkey's
It's a monkey's paw.
I mean, perhaps sort of similar to a monkey's paw. Yeah. I don't know why I'm going over there.
This was definitely.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know why I keep putting it down.
Oh, right.
So yeah,
well, I guess.
but you've never seen them like fashioned into objects. Like you didn't, like this one has like a blade on the side, which is weird. Like that kind of doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess I sort of have quietly talk to this. Like that's amazing. It looks almost like. I could be wrong, but you know, this artifact I've heard of this cool thing where they make a wish that the talons fall. I'm sure that's not what it is, but it just reminds me a little bit.
You're like, I wish I knew. And then,
Yeah. But man, yeah. Man, I wish I had a glass of water.
Yeah.
Just toss it back into.
Oh,
So this guy's into wishes.
Wish master.
do a detective thing.
The Wishmaster?
Now there's, I think it was
So, Natalia, you said that you're poking around looking for.
Yeah, so I will read like few like random papers. And actually,
do you have any like linguist skill? Like,
yeah, I have like a whole bunch. And actually, I'm trying to look for something. I mean, usually, even if someone's like table is pretty messed up, you can usually spot like which one of this like piece on the table is more important. So something that not in such a whole mess, or maybe some like pile of already sorted things. So things like that.
Yeah.
I have observation skill. I have pretty high like perception.
Okay.
What's the roll for?
You can roll perception. If you have any sort of like,
Can I borrow glasses for a
yeah. If you have any,
So,
if you have any,
if I can do it like for the whole game.
yeah, sure. I'll find my super dice.
It sounds not really good for players.
No, they're not. These are the dice that I've been using for like 20 years with my like one like, like creepy.
I'm sorry or something.
Yeah. So when I roll, by the way, I never roll hidden. I'm not.
So
I don't have any
I
GM screen. I roll 100% in front.
I rate my perception by 6.
By 6. Do you have any sort of scholarly skills of any sort that you can draw on to sort of help you choose?
What do you mean?
Well, like you're a psychologist. Do you have any sort of like skills, like academic skills?
Okay, so I have like psychology. I have physics, occultism. What else?
So roll.
Linguistics, history.
So why don't you roll on like your occultism?
Occultism. So what I rolled, or should I roll?
Well, you've already rolled, which I'm going to take that into effect. But I also want to know like what sort of like you said you're looking for something important, and I'm trying to figure if there's a type of importance that you're looking for. You can roll any skill that you think would like apply.
Okay. So like roll again? Or
Yeah, roll again.
So I made my occultism by 4.
Okay. Sorry. I was at my co-working space the other day, and like this girl that was like works there, we both had drinks, and like I opened mine, she opened hers, and as she was talking, she like put her hand around my drink, and I just waited, like I didn't say anything, and I watched her holding it, and then she went, and I knew she was gonna drink it, but I wanted her to, and then she drank it, and I'm like, oh, you want mine too? And she was like, yeah, and I just went and got another one. I knew she was gonna do it. Anyway. So yeah. Anyway, so you find you can sort of see. It looks like there's like a leather pouch that seems to like it's got like a toggle on it, like to sort of keep something safe. But the toggle has fallen open, and you can see that the tomb, on the back. You can read the spine, and it's called a mind's eye, and there is like a green sort of gem in the spine, and it just catches your attention.
Okay, so I'll take it and try to read.
Okay.
Through.
Okay, so when you sort of lift the cover and you sort of take a look, and it says a mind's eye, and it looks like the letters in the title are like inlaid. Like slivers of emeralds or some green gem that's been like shattered and then artfully like constructed, and it doesn't look like disheveled. The edges are very smooth, like someone has chosen the pieces so that they line up perfectly and sort of spell this out. And you open the book, and inside, and it's actually not a book. It's a fake book. Inside it is a smaller leather diary with like, and it's like tied up, and it's got all these like pieces of paper like sticking out of the side of it.
So it's like, if I will unwrap it, it will damage the whole thing? Or?
No, but you feel that like if you want to unwrap it, you're gonna have to like put it down on a desk and open it and like do it somewhere where you can. When you open it, it's gonna spill all over the place. It might not damage it, but it won't. It's not easy to do while you're holding it.
Like anything else I can read, like from inside, or just like this letters on the back.
You can see like sticking out of the top of this book there, of this sort of like, I guess, collection of papers or whatever. There's one thing sort of sticking out that you can pull out and you can look at, and it looks like. Do you have any like cartography skills?
Let me see.
I do.
Do you? Okay.
I don't know if I'm busy with
No,
him.
I don't.
Well, can you? So are you like looking at this really like secretly, or are you just sort of doing it?
No.
Okay, so you
So
can roll.
I don't think I'm not doing like anything wrong.
No,
I'm
don't
just
do
like
it.
waiting
Yeah,
in
like-
the library, so I'm like
Are you doing
browsing
this, like,
through
pretty-
the inventory.
Like pretty openly, like you're like, whoa, check this out, and you're like, hey guys, look what I found over here.
Yeah, so you notice there's a
Well, I'm not looking like overexcited. I'm just like you know, it's like just picking like books from a shelf, like trying to like like I'm not hiding in it.
Yeah, so if you want to roll like perception +3, I'll give you an additional +2 on top of your +1 because it's not very difficult for you to miss it. But I can't just give it to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you definitely notice that there's some sort of a map.
Okay.
Right? So now you can roll on your cartography skill.
It's the left, right?
Yeah.
It's TL5, I don't know what that means. Oh. Did I think I got 11, yeah.
Yeah, so it's always dealer like defender wins. So you basically
So I passed the turn.
yeah, you pass it. So you are able to read. You sort of have to like turn it around a couple times to look, but it looks like it's strange. It's like you're looking at it, and it looks like there is some sort of like drawings of pyramids and some sort of like path that leads between like these two pyramids, and there's like this tree and some sort of things. But then as you're looking at it, you see that there's like it sort of like peels away. Like there's like a piece of tissue paper or something over top of it, and as you kind of like lift the tissue paper underneath, you can see that the piece of tissue paper on the top is the pyramid, and then underneath is this map, and it looks a lot like an area just to the, there's a swamp to the east of the city of Arkham, and it looks like there's like a part that looks like a lake that's near that swamp.
Okay.
So it, from what it looked like, it was originally just like a map of somewhere in Egypt. It actually looks like it's something local.
Yeah, weird. Okay. Is that what's the name of the swamp nearby? What's the name of the swamp?
Tankane. It's Tankane swamp.
Is that the Tankane swamp? Can't be right.
Well, you can always memorize it
Yeah, for sure.
because he has photographic memory. So. I mean, you can steal it too. I don't know what you're
So
going to
did you
do.
say anything about the map?
Yeah, I said, is that swamp outside of town?
And it's like you mentioned, it's like path on the map.
Yeah, yeah.
So gentlemen, are we going for treasure? I'm just like kind of kidding.
Yeah.
Which isn't treasure. It's quite childish.
It's quite. Okay.
So anything else on this piece of paper? Just like map with no description?
No, it's just so it was a map, but then it peeled off. So the map. Pardon?
Hand drawn?
Well, it looked like this the pyramids kind of looked like it was like an etching, rubbing. Thank you. And then the path kind of looked like it was just all part of the same thing. But then when you pulled the rubbing off, the map that's underneath it is clearly hand drawn.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, so just everything's kind of been down. I'll just look at it. Anything else that's of interest? This mess of papers and objects.
Yeah, sure. Roll your perception.
Yeah. Wow.
Critical pass.
Oh shit!
Okay.
What's he gonna find?
So let's
That's
see.
rare.
That's very. So yeah. So a 3 or a 4 is a crit.
Oh.
Anytime. 3 or 4 is a critical success, and a 17 or an 18 is a critical fail. No matter what your roll is, you're always failing on those.
Okay.
Okay.
It's taking a long time.
Yeah.
You can still hear squeezing. It's not. Honestly, it's only.
Oh,
like,
that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
You're like, why is he talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it all does tie in.
You felt it kind of together.
So yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, it's only been like maybe like 2 or 3
Yeah.
weeks since you've been yeah. So you you notice that there is a sort of what should we call it? At the as you're like sort of rummaging around one of these desks, sort of like it's like a plinth, like a wooden plinth, kind of rummage around on it. You sort of like knock your elbow against the edge of this plinth, and like a wooden a wooden stand.
Like, is it a book stand? Is it for reading? Having a book open?
Yeah, I guess so. It's like those things that you see like busts on top of.
Oh,
Like
It's like a little pillar.
yeah, a little pillar of some sort, but it's wooden and it looks like it might have had, like drawers in one side and the drawers are all gone. Like it's anyway. As you're like looking at these pieces of paper, you knock the edge of it and you see it kind of goes like you hear like this, and you see like a little hidden drawer kind of come loose from the edge. That opens like a hidden compartment of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. You pull it out, and inside looks like a pair of glasses. They look very old. They've got like they're made of gold, and the gold is it's very lustrous, and they've got little like ear loops. Like little tiny glasses, and one of the glasses is completely the lens is missing, and the other lens looks like it's like dull brown, and in front of the dull brown lens, like so here's like the glasses, and this one like got the lens that's clear, right? In front of this thing, there's like little other lenses on a little, like you can like move little other lenses in front of this lens.
So like magnifiers.
Yeah, of some sort. Like you don't really know. Like it looks like these lenses are different colors, slightly different colors. Like one of them is slightly green and one of them is slightly red.
Well, put them on and see different monsters. Different dimensions.
I don't know.
Okay.
It looks like I can tell you that it looks like the inside of this compartment is like lined with thick dust. Like everything in here is like it hasn't been. It doesn't look like someone's been like, oh, I'm going to store these here at a later date. It looks more like someone has put these here 80 years ago and they haven't been found since.
Okay. That's time to clean them off.
Okay.
Put them on curiosity.
You're going to put them on?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you roll your willpower, please?
Yeah.
Put on the glasses.
Okay.
Oh.
You put them on, and they don't really seem to do anything.
17. No, what was that? 14. What was 14?
So his willpower is 12.
All right.
So you put them on, they don't really do anything. But you think, you know what? I don't really want to take these off. So you try like moving the lenses over the little thing, and it doesn't look any different. You can't really see through it. There's like this dark brown lens, and then there's like a green lens, and as you peer at it, can you roll your perception?
Yeah.
Okay, it's sort of, you feel like maybe this lens that's here is made of like amber. Like it looks like it's got the kind of like when you feel the lens, it sort of has that texture of like a piece of like polished or like chipped amber to some degree. Anyway, but you look through it, and the world looks kind of like dim and like murky, and you can't really make up any details through it, and you try putting the other lenses in front, it doesn't really do anything. You're like, doesn't really do anything, but you're like, you know what? These feel kind of good, and I'm kind of gonna wear them, right? But then as you're wearing them, you like the fact that there's a lens there sort of like fades out of attention, and you don't really notice that there's like a lens in front of your eye. You sort of like unfocus, and you can sort of see. Like you don't feel like, oh, I can't see through this lens, it's murky. It just sort of like blends in with the rest of your surroundings, and it kind of just.
So do I subtract points from my sense of humor?
No. No.
Okay. That's weird.
No, it just has. It's like,
And when Lucy comes back, just that's just normal make.
NBD. NBD, no big deal. Anyway, so Simon comes back.
Okay.
Simon comes back in the room, and he's holding lemonade, and he's got like all these like he's got like 8 glasses of lemonade, right? And he's coming, he's like, hi, hey, lemonade, and he drops one, and he drops it, woo, and he just keeps walking, and he starts handing out like lemonade to everybody, and you get a sort of clean glass, you get a dirty glass, you get a very clean glass, and Vitaly gets a dirty glass.
Okay.
But can you roll on your willpower, please?
All of us?
No.
Oh.
Yep, fail.
Okay. So for a split second, as Simon is giving you this glass of lemonade, as you're looking at his face, all of a sudden you see his face kind of like just sort of blur for a split second, and you see his face is like, and then it just goes normal. Like he looks like he's like screaming, and you can see him like his fingers like tearing at his face, and then it just goes completely normal.
Oh, right.
And you get two sanity points.
Oh. Yeah.
But wherever you want.
Someone died?
No, not yet. Yeah, just put it as only if you want sanity points. Okay.
I put on glasses and then.
No, he missed it all. He left when you opened the compartment.
Oh, okay. So I found these glasses that had like one of the lenses and the other lens of this like kind of brownish amber.
Yeah.
And there's these tiny lenses in front of it, doing it red.
Yeah.
Pull in front, and I don't see anything through them at first, and so I decided to keep wearing them. And then I forget that they're there, stop noticing when I have them on, and then I look over at Simon, because I give me lemonade. It looks like he's like screaming and tearing at his face. Super scary.
But it only lasts like a second. It's like just like a glimpse.
Yeah.
Like a flash, and then it's back to normal.
Oh man.
So you sort of see him kind of like he's got his lemonade. He sort of like jerks back for a second, and then kind of like looks and sees that everyone's kind of looking at him a little bit, and then just goes back to normal. I don't know if you would tell everyone or if you don't even, and you still have an overall desire to not take the glasses off.
Oh man.
Okay.
Everyone will end up with these in one point or another. You just lucked out. Lucked out.
Yeah, maybe I'll just keep that to myself.
Yeah, and anytime you hear by anything, it's always more or less. I mean, there is good and there is bad, like I said, right?
Well, the wishes with the catch thing, it's like, so tantalizing.
I know, right? I mean, maybe it's just nothing. I mean, it could be just nothing. Yeah, some things are just nothing. Or
Alright, just that my turn, I guess.
Lucy come back with
Scott Benjamin. Scott. So a couple minutes later, Scott, Dr. Benjamin comes back into the room with Lucy behind him, and sort of like he looks sort of similar in sort of stature and shape to the Penguin, played by Danny DeVito's Penguin. Except instead of having a long nose, he has a very bulbous nose, and it looks like it's got some sort of like a growth, like it's just nasty. Like that looks like he picks at it. Like it's just not a good sign. He's got like thick earwax. Oh, sort of like, and it's one of those
so
things.
gross.
It's one of those things where like as he gets close, you can smell it. Like you know what it is, right? Like you know it's earwax. You know it's earwax. Like it's just like really like stale, sort of like
man, that's so nasty.
stale earwax. And he kind of looks at you, and he licks his lips, and you can see that his teeth are quite disheveled. Is a polite word to use. Just really not very good. You know what he ate for breakfast. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
And his tongue is oily and covered in like a whitish sort of web.
Too much.
Like a thick
saliva.
thick. Yeah, the saliva is quite thick. You know, and it kind of like it makes a very like a suctiony noise. As it plays about his teeth. Quite a well, I'm just explaining how this guy. It's quite a thing. And Lucy seems like fairly unfazed by this whole. You don't see, he doesn't look any different to you through the lens, and nothing happens of that sort, which you're sort of like thankful for. He sort of like smiles, and he looks at you all, and he says, "Hello. I am Professor Ventman, and here you want to speak." And he sort of like shuffles over, and he kind of like sits sort of close to you, and he kind of like, and he's just, I mean, you're really trying your best to be like really neat and really like you know, out of all these people, you're probably the one that is probably the most like polite, but it's just like it's so like offensive. Like this ear, you know, it's like you want to turn a little bit around, so at least you're not within like you know, like.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. He sort of like looks at you for a second, and he reaches over and he grabs your hand, and his hand is quite strong.
Yeah.
And he's looking at your fingers, and he goes, "You work with books. Tell me, who are you? Tell me." And then he like grabs the lemonade, and he says, he slurps the lemonade a little bit, and as he puts the glass down, you can see there's like a rime of like saliva, like frothy saliva on the side of the glass.
Oh, it's so gross. I just tell her I tell him I work at the school. I try to keep it short so I don't gag.
He's like, the school, yes, the school, the children there are very smart, I hear.
Yes,
Yes.
certainly are.
Lucy says that she's known you for some time.
Yes,
You are
we go-
friends, yes?
We go way back, yeah, we went to school together. I look around for support.
I Professor, we come on behalf of our good friend. What's his name?
I don't know. I told you twice.
Damn it.
Oh,
no.
he remembers.
Archibald?
Archibald.
Archibald something.
Archibald is the one who runs the house. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we're going on behalf of Archibald.
Well, it was one of his friends.
Yeah,
Right.
I should have written it down.
So it's usually good, especially this is a good. Yeah, it's usually good in particularly in this campaign to appoint one person to be like a note taker. And you guys, once you have access to Quip, if you want to bring a tablet or a little laptop, you can type notes directly into Quip and like title them as the name of the thing, and you'll have access to all of them. Everyone will have access to all of them, like moving ahead. So I'll give you this freebie just because this was the guy's name that you're looking to represent is a guy named Tad Forsyth. Right. Okay. And the guy that owns the rooming house is Archibald Brewdry. Like brew beer, D-R-Y. And this guy, Professor, is Professor Ventriman. Vent. Trim. A-N. First use.
only I had a tad.
Mmm.
Okay, let's go. That tad foresight.
And the name of that swamp outside of town is Tankanay Swamp. Tank A-N-A-Y.
Tank Swamp.
Tank N-A.
All right.
Tad foresight is the one who runs the scholarship thing.
Yeah, there's a scholarship grant program that's run out of the archivist's sort of section of the library. And it carries quite a large chunk of money. So there's other like people who have won the prize. They basically get a big chunk of money, and they also get the position of sort of working underneath Professor Ventriman in like an architect's office, where the students the ex-students work. It's a very sort of prestigious position to get.
I guess so. You
We're here on behalf of Tad Forsyth. He wishes to apply for a particular.
Yes, always nosing around, sticking his nose, trying to get in, trying to get stuff. He is quite smart, I'll give him that.
I use charisma to try to convince you further and speak highly of him and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you can roll. So if you're going to use your charisma, you don't have to roll on it because the only thing you roll its skills are rolled on.
Oh.
These are for your reaction rolls. So you automatically get your plus your appearance, but then you're also getting an additional plus from your charisma. So if you sort of turn on your charisma per se, and you sort of schmooze him a little bit more, then you basically turning on the charm. You let me know what you want to say. I'll roll, but you sort of have to role play a little bit as well as like what you want to say to him, and then I'll roll.
Sure. Well, I'm still absolutely disgusted by him, but I'm defending Tad. I'm talking about how smart he is and how enthralling his ideas are, and how I'm sure his research would be productive and original were he to be allowed in.
Okay. So he doesn't seem like bowled over by your sentiment, but he does at least seem like authentically interested, or authentically sort of he believes you. He believes that this guy is genuine in some sort of way. He said, "Well, I suppose I could consider. I need some notes. Roberts! He sort of shouts with a bit of a lisp. And this another man comes out from behind this sort of behind the stacks here, and he's carrying like a sheaf of papers, but then he's also got like a notebook sort of attached. It's where normally there'd be a pocket watch. There's a chain, a pocket chain, and then at the end there's a notepad, and you can see in the sort of the where his ear, like, put a pencil behind the ear like this. He's got a pen, like a quill pen, and all the side of his face is like covered in like black, like crusty and fresh ink, and some of it's blue and some of it's green and some of it's red, but it's like trickling. You can see that it's like stained his skin. But he's also he's kind of shuffling a little bit, and you can see that he's also a little bit simple. And he sort of comes, hi, Robert! And all he seems to be able to say is his name. He just kind of shuffles up, and Professor Ventureman takes the pen, just kind of brusquely from behind the ear, and he sort of squints a little bit, and he sort of opens up his booklet, writes a couple things in it, closes it up, gives the pen back, sticks the pen back, and goes sort of this without saying a word, sort of dismisses Robert. And the simpleton sort of like shuffles off back down behind his desk. Scuttles, that's a good word.
Yeah.
So he sort of like looks at you, and then looks at Lucy, looks back at you.
Surely you just meet him just once for one conversation. I'm sure you'd be impressed.
Well, I suppose. Yes, very well. If you can produce him and have him here by noon, by two. Bring him to the office, and we will speak. I will speak to him. Do I be late? No, do not be late.
Okay.
And he sort of like sidles off down the stacks, and Simon is sort of carrying his lemonade.
So they left her alone.
Yeah. No, they've left. Lucy is sort of close by, but she's not like with you yet, and it seems like she's sort of like tidying a few small things. She should probably be coming back at some point, but
I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
discreetly take the wishing claw.
okay. Yeah, you can definitely take it.
Just palm it.
Yeah, no one
I don't
wants.
want these guys to see either. I'm just
Oh,
kind of- I don't know why. I'm
if
doing
you
it.
don't want them to see, then you have to roll a dex check because you don't have any sort of like sleight of hand skills.
No.
You could sort of say like, "What's that over there?" sort of thing, like, "Oh, what do you guys think of that window?" And then sort of try to surreptitiously grab it that way, and that you get a bonus
Okay.
to that. But if you don't have a skill, that's normally you'd be rolling on your dex -4.
I guess I say I point to that giant ruby that's wound with gold
With-
wire.
yeah,
and I say,
yeah.
You ever seen a ruby so big as that? And then when they look, I try to.
Yeah, sure. So roll on your dex -2.
That's one. Okay. Whoa. 15. So I subtract 2 from there.
You subtract 2 from your dex, and then you roll under it.
Yeah, so I failed by quite a bit.
Okay. So you grab it, and they see you grab it, but you don't know. You don't. I would say that you probably noticed them. Like you failed in such a grand scheme
Yeah.
that you see them see you grabbing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say, oh, it's just such an interesting artifact I've
So
never
you're gonna
never seen
steal
it
it.
before. No, I was simply looking at it more closely. That's all.
Then why didn't you tell us to look at it?
Well, there are just so many incredible artifacts here, such as this, or.
I'll leave the damn alone.
There you go. There you go. See, that's perfect. That's playing here. That's exactly it.
Well, I could say the same for you. You're still wearing those weird specs.
Oh, I forgot.
So, you mind them off.
No, I think I'll keep them on, thank you.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Very good at fist.
So you're gonna keep it anyway? You can.
I think I'm going to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah. Okay.
Just curious. I want to research this a little bit more. I'm sure they wouldn't mind. I'm quite good friends with Lucy. We're quite close.
On my skin.
Are you like the?
Okay.
I wish you know more about this gentleman's skin.
God damn it!
I wish you pre-ordered the best Xbox game ever. Or the best PS4 game ever. And what rises out of it. I don't know. What? No, there's a private joke that we have with him about a terrible game that he has.
Great.
I mean,
You gotta
What?
explain it now.
No, I don't.
Because it'll come.
What's the game?
There's a game called there's a game called The Order
Fucking
1886, which is like a really bad video game. Oh,
It's not actually that.
a badly reviewed video game where you clunky and you shot werewolves in the 1880s.
Okay.
And so anyway, and so for some stupid reason, I don't know why, I remember watching a terrible review about it on YouTube, and then Ruben had sort of said, "Oh, I'm playing this game." So it was years ago, and so now every once in a while, once every 2 games or so, it sort of randomly, I sort of bring it up. So,
And then you open the drawer and find
yeah, and he's just like, no! So anyway, it breaks a little immersion, but sometimes it's fun. Anyway. So yeah, sorry. So you've taken the claw, you've hidden it in one of your, I guess you've hidden it in your purse probably, I don't know, your pocket or between your breasts.
I think I'm the kind of person that would have some pockets.
Sure.
So
Sure. So Lucy comes back and she says, "Well, you've definitely made quite an interesting impression on Scott. But yeah, I guess I'll escort you guys back out now, and I guess he said you'll be returning with Tad in a few hours. I'll be at my desk. You're welcome to stay and chat if you like. I'd love to know more about you." Roll your code of honor, please.
He has to stay.
Just don't roll under 12.
Oh.
Yeah, so you managed to break. You're sort of like very tempted, but you managed to break away. You can leave. Yeah. Yeah. If you roll over 12, then you sort of are spellbound. Yeah.
What?
So yeah. So you guys head out. You can probably call the rooming house and ask Archibald to sort of send his friend over. Yeah. So it's about 10 o'clock. We normally play from 7 to 10, give or take. We sometimes go a little late, 10:30. But this is also a fairly good time to stop before we do the next portion. Do people want to stop here? Do you want to do another 20 minutes? I know you're tired.
Honestly.
Okay. Is that all right if we stop?
I
Yeah,
shouldn't. Yeah, my kids are up early, so
Okay.
I shouldn't stay.
Yeah, no problem. Okay,
But this was really good. Thank you.
good. No problem. Thanks for coming out.
That's just the beginning.